this is Kelly Smith. I'm in Sparks, Nevada. This is my friend David Costa from Renegade Jets. Welcome, David. I'm glad you could take some time with me to talk about something that's near and dear to both of our hearts right now as to what's happening in our country regarding this coronavirus and, an unconstitutional takeover of our country and, like, you mentioned to me before, a reset on the world here.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining me.
Well, thanks, Kelly, for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
I posted yesterday something on Facebook because I'm just going to be right up front. I'm not happy about what they're doing with this. They've couched this in the name of keeping everybody safe. We got to wear a face mask all the time. We have to stay in home. They've shut down 80% of the businesses. They have all kinds of stuff going on here that all in the name of safety for all the people. And in my view, it's not safety, it's control. Because why would they take 80% of the businesses, shut them down, but leave the other 20% open and then say, if you wear a mask or something, go in there? Well, hey, if you've been to Walmart, you've been to Target, you've been to Costco, you've been exposed to the virus. Everybody goes there. So why not open up everything else? I don't get it. Well, the reason is because to me, it's a takeover. It's a control issue of what they're doing. And I really don't like what this is. There's something going on here. If you want to call me a conspiracy theorist, be my guest. But
I agree.
Something's not right here about what they're doing.
I agree. And, our nation was not based upon a premise of safety. Our nation was based upon two things: liberty and responsibility. And, you're just like me. We each love our fellow man. We love our neighbors. Neither you nor I nor most of America would ever want to do something to harm our fellow man. However, we have limits placed on the government through our Constitution. And this is the premise of who we are as Americans. And so for the government now to scare people, and that's what it is. I think a lot of people are so upset because they're afraid. And when people are afraid, they will accept anything. Wrong information, right information. We're trying, or somebody or something is trying to panic America, and it's working.
Oh, it's totally working. And it reminds me, when you talk about fear. There's a book called The President Makers by Don Fotheringham. And I could show you on the screen if I wanted here, but it's an out-of-print book, and it's a fabulous book written in 2014. And what he does, he goes through the analysis of what has happened to our country since the 1880s, when the three big people, Carnegie, Rockefeller, and Morgan, achieved their unbelievable wealth. And what they did was it was the oil, it was steel, railroads, all those kind of things, and they made an enormous amount of money. And what they did is they did it very unethically, by the way. And somebody said today that if they would be worth about maybe $500 billion today. That's how much money they made in those days. So they got this wealth, and people, the ones that were complaining against them, the ones who were saying, hey, this isn't right, is the newspapers. So they got together and said, what are we going to do about this? No, they got together and they bought 25 of the biggest newspapers in the world, in the country, and put in their own editors, put in glowing reports of what they, were doing now, and just totally changed the whole conversation. And so it became a propaganda machine for them. And then they got Woodrow Wilson in office, the worst president in the history of the country. They wanted to not have any competition, and so they instilled the income tax. They were the ones that put the income tax in. They didn't want anybody to be able to compete with them economically. They started inputting socialist ideals into the school systems and everything else. They wanted the Federal Reserve established so they could have control over the finances. Now, how they got that done is exactly what you're talking about with the fear thing. The 1907 depression was caused because they wanted this Federal Reserve. They caused the depression of 1907. They said, hey, there's a bank. People, they're not going to get their money out of it. So everybody races down there, and lo and behold, they couldn't get their money out of it. Well, a whole bunch of other banks did the same thing, and it caused the depression. And people were so afraid of what this did, how much damage it caused, that was the impetus for allowing them to get into Congress and say, we need a Federal Reserve.
Hmm.
Would you be willing to do this? And so they did that. It passed a law because of fear. That tactic has been used ever since that 1907 to this day. And so now whenever I see something that's causing the whole society to fear something, okay, somebody's got a solution they're trying to propose. And I'm here to tell you there's something about what they're doing right now. They've got a solution to this problem, and it's not going to be more freedom. It's not going to be more money for us.
No.
It's going to be slavery for us and a loss of freedom. And I'm very anxious about what I see happening.
Yeah, it's clearly a reset. For what reason, who's doing it, why, who knows? But to take an economy, to take free people and demand that they not earn a living. We are people that want to work. We're good people, Americans especially. We want to work. And it doesn't matter if you make $10 an hour or make $100,000 an hour. We love to work. It's the fabric of who we are. Us being social creatures, being with one another. If you want to scare people, you also want to separate people, because people that are separated can't talk to each other and start to say, hey, wait a second, this doesn't seem right. Or they won't stand. Because remember, the government doesn't control us. The Constitution limits the government, but we have elected employees now handing down dictates like rulers. And so I question people all the time, and I say, I understand you may be afraid, you may be fearful of catching a virus. Then by all means, you have the liberty and the responsibility to stay home and quarantine yourself. However, for the government to say, you may not go here, you may go there, we're asking for permission. This is what slaves do. You're absolutely right, Kelly.
It's frightening. And you brought up the point about them, our elected officials are our servants. They're not our bosses.
No.
They're not our dictators. They're working for us. We put them in that position because we thought they could use their power and influence in means that would follow the Constitution. They swore to uphold the Constitution. And yet they're going against it every which way they possibly can.
They're actually saying now that, well, we're using laws that we created. I don't know. I didn't vote on these laws, Kelly. I don't know about you. But they're using laws and saying, well, because of this law, all I need to do is deem something an emergency and I can do whatever I want. The laws that are unconstitutional, we have a responsibility. I talk about this all the time, liberty and responsibility. We as patriots, we as citizens of this world have the mandate to each other to stand and say, I will not comply. And I will not comply because my orders come from God and from our Constitution, not my orders in the Constitution, but my limits. I have given people that I elected a job to do. Their rule book is controlled by the limits of that Constitution. You may do some things, you may not do other things. And they have taken an abusive stand. And now we have a question to ask each other. At what point do we say enough?
When you see people, surfers being pulled out of the ocean,
yeah,
they're by themselves out, 100 yards from the nearest person easily. You see people golfing. You see a woman up in Idaho taking her kids to the park, arrested, taking kids to the park.
Yeah.
I mean, this is absurd. I don't know how much longer we're going to be able to do this. And I mean, how much more we'll be willing to withstand what is happening right now, because it's absurd what they're doing.
It is. And, we're all smart people. You and I both know that if somebody said, please, sir, would you please stand back several feet because I feel that you're maybe too close. You and I are decent people. We'd say, sure, you know what? I'm sorry. We don't want to be harmful to others. But people have gotten it put into their head now that a piece of cloth over my mouth will keep them safe. By all means, if you're afraid to go outside, stay home. by all means, if you need help because you're so fearful, you need people to bring you food. Charity comes from us as individuals, citizens. The government is not here to keep us safe. I don't know where I've never read that anywhere. What about you, Kelly?
Oh no, I think the government should provide everything we need from cradle to grave.
Yeah,
Everything we want. It should be just
including paychecks.
paychecks. I want my, all my health care taken care of. I don't want any problems. I don't want any have to work. I want to just sit back and do nothing and just have it be given to me. That's what I signed up for, really, right?
Right.
No. I mean, anybody signs up for that, we'll try a country that promotes that, because it doesn't work. It never has worked, never will work.
Well, because there is no limit to what's going on now. And this is what I think, if we simplify this whole argument, because, you and I are not medical doctors. So there's medical doctors who disagree over this virus, how virulent it is, what the mortality and morbidity rates are. And we can argue that all day long. But something that we can do as citizens is to say, at what point quantitatively does an emergency begin, and what limits of the government are released, right? What constraints are taken off the government, and when do they go back on? So the government is using power on us, and this is not America. In America, we the people place constraints on the government, and they have removed those constraints. That is destroying the fabric of this great country and the great people that are here within it.
Not only is it destroying that, it's destroying something very critical to what is happening, and that is businesses being able to stay open, our food supply, our fuel supply, everything is in grave danger. I mean, I cannot overemphasize this enough, and people don't see it. They're home, they're taking a little vacation. Hey, I got $1,200, I got $2,500, whatever they got in their checking account from the government. And they think, oh, I'll just sit back. The coronavirus will fly away somewhere and I don't have to worry about it. Everything will be fine. We'll just go back to normal. We'll just ease into this, 3 or 4 or 5 months from now, and we'll just go back to normal. Everything will be great.
Yeah.
Right? No. This is like taking a very fine-tuned running engine, an economy, and throwing the biggest pipe wrench in the middle of that engine and destroying everything, because it's extremely dangerous what I see happening. I mean, extremely dangerous. I just watched a video earlier today about a guy in Texas who is a cattle rancher, and what's happening is all these, they're having to destroy their cattle, their pigs, and yet we are importing beef from Namibia and destroying our own. That makes no sense whatsoever. Something is highly amiss here.
It's a global reset. It's just clear. I mean, when the entire economy of the globe has been shut down, this is just logic. We can look at this and saying, then who is doing this? Why did they do it? Why is pretty easy, right? Reset the economies of the world. But for what ulterior motive? World government? Keeping people under control. I mean, and people would laugh and say, "Oh, Dave, you're being totally paranoid." And I'm going, but what other reason would cause this? This is not about a virus. This is about control and power. And if one reads history, throughout history, man has always sought to control other men. And the reason why they do it is they think they're smarter, better, more caring, of course. It always starts that way, right? But look at the people, millions of people slaughtered at the hands of other people under the guise of taking care of them. I would far rather have a group that says, I will stand on my own 2 feet. I will take responsibility for my actions. I'm going to make mistakes, and I'm going to fix my own mistakes. How foreign is that today to a lot of people?
And, obviously you start bringing up stuff like this and people call you, like you said, conspiracy theorist or something like that. But what's the other answer? Why is this a global thing happening at the same time? Something is very amiss here. And they don't want to see it. And yet, and I'm trying to say, like, when I was a scoutmaster, I've been a scoutmaster a couple of times, and we'd have the boys teach merit. We teach them merit badges on a variety of things. And we'd always ask them. This one merit badge counselor came up and said, "What is the one merit badge that you will use the rest of your life and you cannot live without?" The question always came up was 123 merit badges or something like that. And they'd think about it and they'd think, oh, maybe first aid. They said, nope. What about life saving? What about other things? Nope. Finally, it came out that the one merit badge that they could not live without was personal finance, because you cannot live without money. And it took a while for them to get the concept, of course. But once they got it and they realized they went through the whole process, you just cannot live without money as much as we'd like to. As much as we have everything to be free and everything to be easy and stuff, there's just no way. You have to live with money. And by the actions of our elected officials that are working in concert together, very nerve-wracking actually, for them to all collectively agree, let's just turn off the money supply. It's absolutely unconscionable what they're doing. This is not as easy as turning it back on. I used the analogy in my thing yesterday on Facebook of a jet airplane being in a nosedive, and at a certain point, there's no way to pull it back up out of that nosedive. You're the pilot. That's why I wanted to talk about that. And you say, well, maybe or maybe not. That may or may not be true, but that's exactly what happened. They can't just go in nosedive, turn off the engine, and then turn them back on, thinking we'll just pull out of this and go back to 35,000 feet. No big deal.
Well, correct. As a pilot, and as a pilot that flies all kinds of jet aircraft, we have so many backup systems precisely for the reason, right? We never want to be completely out of control. We want to have backup systems, and the pilot is taught to manage risk, and the pilot is taught to make decisions all the way down. If I lost all the power on my aircraft and all my backup systems, I would assume that I was the subject of a terrorist attack, because there's no way my airplane would be designed to shut down completely, just like our economy, right? We have free enterprise because some people will be wildly successful with ideas that we never thought were even probable 10 years ago. Look at the iPhone. Nobody called for an iPhone. Wildly successful because of free market, because the human potential, individuals have power. And what government wants to do, and this is where we're going back to this fear-based. You don't want fearful pilots in the cockpit of airplanes. You want pilots that stand there, look at a good or a bad situation, make decisions all the way through. You never want a pilot to throw his hands in the air and say, oh, well, I'm just doing what air traffic control told me to do. We will never allow that. And we shouldn't allow that here today. I think people, when they're fearful and scared, they'll listen to anybody. What we need to be telling them is, you do have power, you have worth, you have good ideas. By all means, if you want to protect yourself, do that. But by all means, stand tall right now. And this is where we as Americans can short circuit whatever terror attack or whatever evil plan is out there. We as Americans can be different and stand together like we always have.
Yeah, I agree. And it's always the hobbling of the free enterprise has always caused the most problem. The more government involved you are, the more problems you're going to have. And yet people complain about the corruption. They complain about the taxes. They complain about the cost of healthcare. They complain about this and that and this and that. And yet the reality is they've all been deceived. They've all accepted these things, and we've all gone in an unconstitutional pattern that has caused all of this. All the problems we face are because we've gone against what the original Constitution was.
And look who's going to win out of this: big government and big business. So this will propagate that further lie, how free market is bad. Well, free market is not big business. Free market is the companies you and I deal with, that small entrepreneur that risked everything, their life savings, their passions, their family's well-being to start a business not because they want to take over the world, because they want to be of value to their clients. You know, these companies, Kelly, these are people out there that go, I want to start a restaurant and serve the best, most tasty food, or the most, these are people that care about, that's free market, is offering something of value back.
Right.
But now only big restaurants will survive. Only big manufacturers will survive. The mom and pop, the small entity, that is almost irreparably damaged right now.
And that, the small business, is what runs this country.
Absolutely.
By far.
Absolutely.
Outrageous. But they can't control us as small
Right.
business.
That's
They
right.
can't regulate us like they want with a big business. And as Glenn Beck had a lady on the other day pointing out that the big fear that she has is that it will combine big business with big government.
Yes.
The power of the government to get the freedom and control of the business profits and stuff, combining them together. What a disastrous combination that's going to be.
And then people will say, see, I knew that business was evil. I knew that free market was bad. So let's take socialism. That'll be so much better. Because remember, the government has no conscience. The government does not offer charity. The government is not designed for that. I tell people this all the time. I said, it is my individual responsibility as a free person to be a charitable person. It's my individual responsibility to care for people around me that are sick and needy. It is not the role of the government to do that, which is precisely why we have constraints on the government. And we need to get that back. And I think most people understand this, because you run into these people, most Americans, and I only speak about Americans right now, because really, this is the country I live in. Americans are the most giving, generous people over and over and over again, time and time again. But the government is shut down our ability to be generous. And so now we stand with our hands out, waiting for $1,200.
Yeah.
We've been bought off for $1,200.
And then what are they going to do next month?
Yeah.
And the month after that.
Yeah.
Well, the money's already spent. So,
It is.
yeah, they want us to get into this pattern of stuff. Well, we could go on all day about this. I'm just very concerned about what I see. Thank you for participating in this. What is your website?
Oh, yeah, you can listen to my radio show. Just go to Renegade AV, the number 8R, renegadeaviator.com. And we do a show. We fly air shows in a TS-11 Iskra jet. And I do a radio show in concert with that. And we talk about excellence demonstrated, achieving goals, overcoming obstacles. And we do that with an aviation spin. So whether you love aviation or not, go to renegadeaviator.com and search Renegade Aviator. Anywhere online, you'll find my radio show. It's on all podcasts.
Am I spelling that correctly?
Renegade, it's the AV, the number 8R. Probably, I can't see it, but
8R.
it's fine. I'm doing this on my iPhone.
I'm spelling something wrong here. Renegade.
RENEGADE. There we go.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
And
So yeah, we have pictures of the jet. There's my jet. There you go.
Nice. And
so yeah, fly air shows, and the whole thing about, right now we are promoting air shows, because air shows is a truly American thing. You go out there, you feel pride. And air shows and air show pilots were all about excellence demonstrated. That's America. I can't think of anything better than that, going out there and managing risk, taking responsibility, having a good time. So anyway, I'm passionate.
Yeah, that's great. And I'll take a look at this. Hope everybody listen to your show. And I have the Websmith group. I do website design. And I part of the reason I bring this up is because I've had a lot of customers cancel their jobs in the last month. It's been crazy. I do websites all over the country, literally all over the country. I've got them from Raleigh, North Carolina, to Washington, to Phoenix, to St. Louis, to everywhere. I've got them all over the place.
Wow.
So I love doing this. I love doing marketing and stuff, but I'm watching what's happening in the country, and people they can't spend if they don't have any money. and yet they can't make any money if they can't spend it to market and develop things. And so
Right.
it's crazy what I see happening. So, well, thank you very much, and I really appreciate your time, David, and I hope things turn around. I hope that everything will get back. I hope that enough people are going to wake up. They're going to call our elected officials and demand this get turned around. And for all those friends of ours that yell at us because we're, all we care about is money. All you care about is, whatever you're trying to do. And you don't care about, hey, I'm sick. I've had COVID, or I know somebody else that has an immune problem. I'm sorry about that. I don't want to cause the problem, but I'm here to tell you the problem that is coming is way worse than what you think we have right now. If we do not get this economy back up and running.
That's right. We stand together, and whether we agree or disagree in politics, and Facebook is fantasy world, we talk in sound bites. Right. But ladies and gentlemen listening, Kelly sitting over there, me sitting over here, we're going to look to the left and the right of us. And because we're Americans and good people, even though we may disagree, we're going to be there for each and every American. And if we stand tall and not fearful, we can beat this back. The virus is the small problem. Trust me.
To think you can kill a virus by shutting off the economy is really a dumb idea.
Absolutely. To use your analogy, yeah, you can't save the passengers by shutting the engines off.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks very much, David.
Thanks, Kelly.
We'll talk to you again another time. All right. Thanks very much. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.